It started when I was around 11 or 12 years old.
It started at 19.
It started when I was at work when I was 34.
It started when I was 10.
I was in kindergarten.
When I was in college, I was 18.
It was a coworker.
My mom's boyfriend.
My uncle.
It was a date set up by my older cousin, whom I trusted with my entire being.
It was my boyfriend at the time. We were in a relationship and he violated me.
One of my brothers.
I'm doing this because I look strong, and there are a lot of strong women doing amazing things in the world, but I have overcome my experience, and there are a lot of women and young girls who need to know that they are not their experience.
I feel like this movement of Me Too turning into We Too is because what we've seen is that when one woman speaks, it's powerful. When a whole group of us stand up and say this is not okay, this is not what we're going to stand for, things happen, and this is powerful.
We don't talk about these things collectively, so this was the first time everybody's talking about it and realizing that we have more in common than we have not in common.
It takes me back to being 4, 8, 12. It's like reliving it all over again, and I think that is what resonated with women. It's because we all have things that we are carrying.
That was so real for me because something could trigger me and I would fear for my life in that moment. My uncle was supposed to be my guardian. He was supposed to protect me. I have confronted him. He made me feel like I didn't know what I was talking about and that there wasn't anything to what I was saying. I do remember talking with a counselor about that because I felt so grieved. I can read a room, I read people, you talked about people's energy, I read people's intention. I tune in to people to see, okay, what are you, I hear what you're saying, but what are you really about?
When a guy is around my kids. I have that when there are just these moments
and you're
that
like,
happen.
I know these folks think I'm crazy.
Yes. And it doesn't matter if it's a family member. Where are my children in this room? That that's your life.
I got to his place and I never left because it's kind of hard to leave when you have a knife to your throat. From that moment on, I mean, not to say my life hadn't already changed, but it just became a gigantic blur and a whirlwind with the police, with the campus, authorities, newspapers. It just became crazy. When you share your truth and you're not acknowledged for your truth, you're always healing, and people don't know that. And then they want to judge. You have no idea. You have no idea what it's like.
This is the first step for people to understand that their husband, boyfriend, sibling, all of those people are part of this. This is, you have to listen to those that are speaking up.
I didn't even know what had actually happened. It was very confusing. I didn't tell anyone. I didn't know who to tell. I didn't know who I could go to. I was very, very alone. It's on some level almost, I don't know, surprising to me how much emotion is still there this many years later. But as soon as I start talking about it, that emotion just, it shoots up to my throat, and I just have to swallow it down. It's a process. I took the longest shower I've ever taken, and for the next 6 months experienced a horrendous amount of abuse at his hands that I didn't feel like I could escape. And it wasn't until I finally decided that I was worth more than that I escaped it, but it's been a really long journey of 15 years to get to where I am now.
When I was 5, I didn't tell anyone. After someone did something to me as simple as a kiss, that brought back the things that had happened to me as a child. You may see my glory, but you don't know my story. I set the mattress on fire. There were box springs that had the little strings back in the day. So in an attempt not to get in the bed, I was on the floor playing with the lighter. And setting that bed on fire, I knew she would say, why was she in my room? Not she set the bed on fire. And instead, he held me while she spanked me for setting it on fire. And that hurt more than his abuse. Because she didn't ask, why was I even near her bed or in her room?
Isn't that the part that hurts the most, when you tell somebody who's supposed to protect you and they pretend it either didn't happen or you carry the blame?
It took place at my place of employment. It was harassment, basically, disguised as joking. I've worked in a lot of places, and there's always someone, and honestly I was very used to it. It wasn't surprising to me, but it was much more aggressive than I was used to. By saying it wasn't worth it wasn't worth telling someone that man cornered me in a hallway and, was trying to get me to perform oral sex on him. Things like that should never be normalized, but you do. And by doing that, I made him more valuable than me. Once you start hearing everyone's stories, it made me angry, because I realized, this was just one of many, and I realized just how disgusting it was and how angry it made me, and I was mad at myself for not doing anything about it back then.
For me, it was important because it was one of the things that tend to be buried up in families. When you're talking about abuse by a sibling or an uncle or someone that's in the family that goes on, there's so much denial and hiding that goes on, and there's a lot of shame and guilt and just a mixed bag of emotions that go with it. So for me, it was just time to come out and tell it. Part of you buries that deep down, and you don't want anyone to know, so you act like everything is completely normal. And to me, it didn't come out until my sibling dropped dead of a heart attack. And then I was the one that had to plan the funeral and everything else. And within that week, at the end of that week, I had a complete breakdown. And everyone thought I was just upset because I lost my brother. And inside, I am in knots and wanting to just scream. But I'm holding the brave face because I'm the one in the family that takes care of everything.
I can really relate to that, because I remember basically one of the family members that violated me when I was very young named their daughter after me, and everybody thought it was nice. So I have a namesake in the family, and she's named after me, and they thought, oh my God, you're his favorite niece. All these years I didn't tell anybody. Is when I started finding my voice to speak out. That's why this message for me, and I'm sure for some of you, is important, because it doesn't matter who doesn't believe you. You know what happened. Speak up for yourself and walk in your power and grace and dignity, because you are worth it. So we have an avenue to give women the voice to say, it happened to me too. And it's important for us at Gazelle to give that voice, because it's part of healing.